it's that time of the day again here on France 24 when we take a look through the world's papers. Jinty Jackson has been doing that for us today. Good morning, Jinty.
Good morning, Catherine.
Now, Zimbabwe, let's start with that. Morgan Tsvangirai has withdrawn from the race, of course. What to do with Robert Mugabe now?
Well, yes, things looking absolutely terrible in Zimbabwe, but the Times, a newspaper in the UK, says it's all well and good that Britain is now leading this sort of cavalcade to get Mugabe out. But how are we going to do that? And things are not looking terribly good there either. Military intervention is off the table, Britain said, for now, but can sanctions work? The paper says, well, there aren't many British businesses actually left in Zimbabwe, and any further sanctions are likely to hurt Zimbabwe's suffering people further. Possibly one could offer lavish rewards to anybody who could get him out from the inside, but one never knows who would actually take over. It might not be the kind of democracy that the world wants to see. I found a really nice cartoon in the Times which illustrates this well. It shows Britain's Foreign Secretary David Miliband literally twiddling his thumbs saying, "Zimbabwe, time for action," in kind of slow motion. So it's all words, no action there. Interestingly, the paper actually blames the world for not pressurising South Africa to do more about the crisis. South Africa's had this kind of soft diplomacy on the issue, and puts this down to kind of continuing reverence for South Africa's own road to democracy and a focus on and hype around Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday coming up later this year.
Well, let's pick up on that, Jinty. How is the press in South Africa dealing with things? Do they think their government has been tough enough?
Well, I found a cartoon in The Citizen, another cartoon this morning, also showing Mugabe getting away with it yet again, a kind of sense of deja vu. He says, well, that was easy, standing over the ballot box, and he is likely to get away with it, of course, on the 27th, being the only candidate in the runoff polls. Tsvangirai was right to pull out, says the editorial, but some African nations may never recover in the eyes of the watching world for their inaction and limp wrists. So, no prizes for guessing who they're referring to there. We now face the ghastly prospect, says the paper, of more refugees, more starving people. Bad news, of course, also for South Africa.
Moving over to the Middle East now, Jinty, and of course Nicolas Sarkozy is in Israel and meeting the Palestinians this last few days, extending the hand of friendship but also getting a bit tough with the Israelis. How is that message going down?
Well, it is a bit of a bitter pill that he's been asking the Israelis to swallow, but the headline in the Jerusalem Post is "From Paris with Love," and there Nicolas Sarkozy is congratulated for a successful seduction routine. It's not so much the content of his speech to the Knesset that the paper likes, but the form. It says that unlike other French presidents who tend to quote philosophy, he actually quoted from the Bible, which is highly unusual for a president of a secular country. He quotes from Isaiah about the Jewish people's God-given right to their land, etc. That won't win him friends in the Arab world, but it did win him hearts in Israel. The paper downplays the second part of his speech about actually stopping Jewish settlements and etc., saying, well, that part was written for him by the Foreign Ministry, most likely.
Moving on to the French papers, perhaps. How is that being seen? Are they proud of what Sarkozy's been up to?
Well, interestingly, the headline in Le Figaro is Sarkozy, a demanding friend of Israel, and there it quotes Sarkozy saying, yes, tough love attitude towards Israel. He says, he tells journalists, with Israel you can say what you want, but only if they trust the person saying it.
Well, finally, talking about trust, of course, we know that some journalists stop at absolutely nothing to get their story. We've also seen stories of journalists making up the story to get themselves into it. But the Guardian reports on something that is really quite extraordinary today.
Quite extraordinary. It's going quite far, Catherine. Rather a grisly story, I'm afraid, of a Macedonian crime reporter whose stories about a serial killer stalking elderly cleaning ladies in his hometown had newspaper readers riveted. Then the police got suspicious. They said he was giving details that he shouldn't have known. They'd never released these details. He went around interviewing the families and etc. And of course, he was the one responsible. He since committed suicide in prison after being charged with the 3 murders. He was apparently quietly spoken and very persuasive, which I guess does help if you're a reporter and a serial killer.
Indeed. Yes, what a combination. Well, thank you very much indeed, Jinty Jackson, for that review of the world's papers. Stay tuned to France 24 now. Thank you.